Hey there, Erin here with the Brayla Group over at V.I.P Mortgage. I am so excited to be bringing you out our newest tutorial based solely on lead generation. Not just any lead generation, we are going to dive in today and talk specifically about organic, consumer-based lead generation. So before we get into it, I want to make sure that you know, in order for this to make sense and in order for it to work, you're going to want to make sure that you head on over first and watch our tutorial on CRM training. CRM is a huge instrumental piece in making sure that anything you're doing to drum up business online is going to work for you. So that way you can organize your data, segregate it based on where it came from, and how you're going to target them moving forward. So if you haven't watched our tutorial yet on CRM usage, you're going to want to stop this video, head on over to that one and check that out first. But without further ado, let's get into lead generation. So lead generation is such a hot topic, not just recently in 2024, but as the past couple years have kind of hit us with a different market space in that business isn't just flying in and showing up at our doorsteps. We have to make sure that we're creating things online to convince and interact with complete strangers that they want to hear what we're talking about. They want to invest, they want to hear our story, and they want to take what we're telling them online to say, yes, I want to do business with you. So in order to actually dive in and figure out if organic lead generation is for you, we have to talk about what it is first and foremost. There's a couple of different forms of lead gen. There are your paid lead gen, which is going to be you are paying a third-party service, whether it's Zillow.com, whether it's Realtor.com, whether it's YLOPO.com. You are paying a third-party service to say, hey, I want access to these demographics, these zip codes, these type of, not just zip codes, locations. I want access to these people to dump into my database so that way I have an opportunity to work with them and try to get them to either buy or sell a home. In this case, that is paid lead generation. And again, you are going to need your CRM to make sure that that has the most ROI. We are not going to talk about paid lead generation today. We are only going to talk about organic consumer-based lead gen. So how I like to do that, and don't forget, anything that we talk about here is non-hypothetical data. We like to make sure that we're using the actual practices within our business so that way we can regurgitate it to you as to what's working and what's not working. So organic lead gen is going to be things that you create online, essentially for free. Whether you have someone in your office, whether it's you who likes to do the content creation, whatever it looks like, you are not paying a third-party source in order to get leads or connections in your door. So as we dive into this, keep in mind, this is going to be a lot of work as far as you're putting out content, you're putting out the right content at the right time to the right demographic. So let's dive in and talk all about organic lead generation. The number one rule when it comes to organic lead gen is making sure that you have a house for it. That could look like a social media platform for you, which works for some. That could also look like a website, which works for others. I tend to always go the website based. And when I say website, I mean a landing page. A landing page is going to give you the opportunity to write long form content on that page that gives keywords and SEO juice. So that way, when someone is searching online, they have more likelihood to land on what you've created than just some random site that actually doesn't have the same keywords and SEO juice incorporated. So what do I mean by that? Because that was a huge mouthful. So when we talk about later on in some of our tutorials about developing a demographic or a niche, which is going to be coming up next, so stay tuned for that one, you are going to want to focus on as specific as you could possibly get when it comes to your topic or your customer or the demographic that you're actually going after. How you can best do that is coming up with things that are really important to you, things that you might be already seeing success in, maybe organizations or community events that you're already involved in. By writing long form content in regards to those specific topics, it is going to allow you more of a niched target for people who actually want to interact with you. So when I say niche target, I'm going to give you an example. As an agent, when I ask you, what is your perfect kind of customer? Who do you love working with? A lot of times you'll hear either VA buyers or VA sellers or first-time home buyers. or first time someone who's actually selling a home and getting ready to buy their second home. You're going to hear the industry standard of the types of niches and demographics that everyone pretty much uses right now. I would challenge you, before we get into our demographic tutorial in just about a week, I would challenge you to really dive in and think about things that are really important to you that no one else is talking about. This is where I call the second most important thing, filling the void. Filling the void in a space is going to allow you more traction when you actually write about said void. So let's say you are in the Arizona community. In the Arizona community, we recently have a gem show, or we have the rodeo, or we have things happening within our community that a lot of people want to interact and get information on. So let's say in this community, you decide to write a long form content piece, otherwise known as a blog, about these types of events. I wouldn't recommend putting all of them into one blog. I would recommend putting one into each specific one, so that way it creates more keyword and searchability online. So let's talk about the Tucson Rodeo. The Tucson Rodeo is something that is very, very unique to our demographic here in Tucson. You, as an agent, have a unique opportunity to write about something that most other agents aren't writing about. Through creating long form content, you have also the opportunity to go in, talk about the event, give specific dates and times, and here's where the magic happens. You have the opportunity to highlight other individuals and other businesses involved in the event. How you do that in long form content is by writing the blog and then backlinking, that's a fancy term, of course, backlinking to said individuals or organizations. How you would do that is just simply by putting hyperlinks into your blog and linking out to those other individuals or business websites. This then allows them immediate recognition into your blog post, and it allows them some SEO juice going back and forth. So that way, if someone actually is reading your blog and clicks on their link, it allows them a clickable search towards their website. So really, you're kind of just hyping up your friends, which is crucial when it comes to building recognition within the community. Okay, so you've created your long form content. Is there such a thing as backlinking too much? Is there such a thing as highlighting other businesses or individuals too much? Absolutely not. In fact, I would implore you to highlight other people way more, if not 100% more, than you do yourself. Keep in mind, and this is going to take us to number 3, this is the etiquette of blogging. The etiquette of blogging is you very, very rarely want to talk about what you do for a living in your blog. The reason for that is because you need to behave and you need to exude that you are a resource. You want to be a resource within the community as opposed to trying to sell someone in your blog. Don't do that. It's not cool. It's not fun for anyone. And you'll immediately lose your readers, and they're not going to feel comfortable sharing your blog post because it really is the call to action of you're trying to sell, list, buy, whatever you want to call it, somebody a home, which makes them feel like a transaction. So when you're doing long format blogging or content creation, you want to make sure that you are very selfless in those pieces. Very, very little bit is going to be about what you do. In fact, I would implore you to 100% make it about what you're writing about as opposed to how it affects you or making someone feel like a transaction. Okay, so we've hit on etiquette for blogging, how you can actually win in a long format piece of content that you're highlighting other partners and other hype people to actually hype them up. The next piece of all of this too is integrating real life photos into your blog. This also could be looked at as another piece of etiquette. You really want to make sure that anytime that you have photos or visual items that you are taking authentic content for yourself. Are there a lot of stock media footage and photos out there? 100%. And if that's the route you'd like to go, I would implore you to make sure that you're looking online to download programs that allow you access, because you're going to pay for them, that allow you access to download stock photos for your blogs. For people who are high on the blogging list, for people who are blogging and putting out content a lot, this is going to be very important that you consider using stock content, because it's very rare that you have enough availability of your own content for photos and visual items to post online. Don't worry about being a professional professional. People enjoy authenticity when it comes to writing or any kind of visual creation. So don't be afraid to share your own items or your own photos or your own videos within your blog post. In fact, you get bonus points for sharing your own videos in a blog post. People receive information in different ways. Some, like myself, prefer to read about it in an article. Others prefer to actually watch it, whether it's on a social media reel, on a TikTok channel, or simply even by using YouTube, Vimeo, or any other kind of content video creator out there. Make sure you're playing to the masses on how people want to receive the content that you're trying to create. Okay, so we've talked about our etiquettes, we've talked about stock images, we've talked about authenticity. I want to make sure to remind you, it seems silly that I have to remind you of this, but if you are going to spend the time to write a long piece of content for a website or a landing page, you are going to want to make sure that those words are yours. This is where I would encourage you, and some people might think I'm being bold or even going off the deep end here when I say AI is really cool. Artificial intelligence is the new way of doing business in a lot of different avenues. When it comes to long format blogging online, don't allow AI to take over your voice. This leads me to my next biggest rule when it comes to blogging. In order for you to determine how you're best going to deliver your tone in a piece of content, in a piece of writing, you really need to focus on your story. People really love to hear and connect as to why you're talking about the thing that you're talking about in that long piece of content, because it has to matter to them as much as it matters to you. If you have not focused in on your stories, we are going to talk about that in another tutorial, but I would just encourage you to find your stories that are important to you. Make them authentic, not your stories about why you became an agent or why you're in the real estate industry. Make sure to focus on your stories about who makes you you. What do you enjoy? If you could do anything in the entire world, no money, no time constraint was an object, what would it be? Focus on why you're writing about why you're writing. In our case of our example with the Tucson Rodeo, maybe it's your first time attending. Maybe you have no idea what to expect, and you're writing a blog after you went, talking about your experience, do's and don'ts. Keep in mind, when you're writing a blog content piece for any kind of website or landing page, people are going to respond in two very different ways. They're going to respond for the fear-based way, fear of missing out, fear of losing something, fear of not having all the information, or they're going to respond on an extreme happiness scale. That's going to be your puppies and your babies categories, right? So when you're talking about our example of the Tucson Rodeo blog, or anything really in your community, wherever you are in the world, focus in on the excitement, the joy, or the top 5 things someone needs to know before going to the Tucson Rodeo. So when you put that into the headline of your blog, that is going to be the opportunity on how you can convince a complete stranger to want to actually read your article or view your video within your blog online. Okay. So as we're continuing to dive into our organic lead generation funnels, if you will start noticing that when you put out long content blogs online, or when you start becoming more active in the writing space, it is going to be the long play. This isn't going to give you immediate gratification. Every once in a while, I've had a blog that I put out that is the vacuum effect, as I like to call it. The vacuuming is my favorite chore because you're vacuuming your home and then all of a sudden you see the lines on the carpet and you feel really good about yourself because it's done. Every once in a while, you are going to have that effect to where you're going to get a lead. You're going to get someone who interacts with you. The thing that you want to keep in mind is when you are creating these articles or when you're creating these pieces of content, the human on the other side, the stranger that's reading this, isn't going to know what to do unless you tell them what to do. So if you want to capture that lead and you want to capture that connection, it is crucial that you give them a clear call to action as to what they need to do next. Most of the time, what I found to be successful is a link within your blog driving that human being, driving that stranger on the other side of your piece of content to fill out a form, a contact lead generation form, so that way they can get more information, or they can sign up for your newsletter, or much like our videos here on the Realtor Resource Page, we want you to subscribe so that way when we post something new, you have immediate access to it. It is our way of making sure that you know What we want you to do next is we want you to subscribe. We want you to fill out your name and your email. So that way, when we post something new and we take the time to want to dive in and create better relationships with our partners and our referral teams, that you know exactly what we need to do to get that information to you in a quick and very easy time frame. So be clear about that when you're writing long content blogs, you're writing long content forms online, whatever the case looks like, even on social media, make sure you have a very, very clear call to action. The next piece about organic lead gen, and we are getting close to the end as far as our introduction to organic lead gen online. The next piece that is so important is your CRM is your backup dancer. When you have someone who is subscribing, or you have someone that is saying, I want more of your content, I want to learn more about the Tucson Rodeo, when they're subscribing, it needs to automatically incorporate into your CRM. The reason that's so important is if someone sends you a lead generation form online, it is more than likely, if it's not hooked up to a CRM, going to go into your email. And that's great. In fact, if it's doing that, you're already one step ahead of the majority of human beings out there who are trying to do their own organic-based lead generation online. But what takes it up to the next notch is when you have a CRM that's already in place that says when someone emails you or fills out your subscribe now or fills out your contact lead gen form, it dumps into your CRM and makes something happen right away. Whether it's a thank you so much for the interest in our video, or whether it's a hey, how can I help next? Whatever that looks like, that starts your automation funnel, making sure that that stranger on the other end of your piece of content feels validated in a thank you so much for giving us the time to immerse ourselves onto your computer screen. So your CRM is crucial when it comes to any kind of lead generation, but most importantly, your organic lead generation. And again, if you have not watched our video on CRM, you're going to want to make sure to do that next if you haven't already. So just a couple of reminders to leave you with this. Content is king, but quality content and intentional content is queen. So make sure whatever you're putting out online not only speaks to something that's important to you, but it becomes a resource to the humans that are trying to find you and to find educational value of what they're looking for online. This isn't simply about buying and selling real estate. This is about diving into a community, telling them you belong here, and then providing them with education and resources about what they're looking for online. And then hopefully, over time, remember this is the long play, they will always look at you as the resource on where they need to go, and eventually that might turn into an offer, a contract, or even just a really great relationship. Thank you guys so much for once again tuning in to the Brailer Group's Realtor Resources. I am so happy to have you here.